Today we're talking about avoiding financial exploitation. I am Andrea Johnson. I am the Grant and Financial Education Coordinator for the Office of Consumer Credit Commissioner. This webinar is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. Here's a little bit about the agency. We regulate and license certain non-depository institutions such as pawn shops, payday loan lenders, and registered creditors. We protect and safeguard consumers like yourselves against abusive and deceptive lending practices. We educate consumers and creditors about their rights and responsibilities. And when we say we protect you, we have a consumer assistance helpline where someone is sitting there to answer your call and try to figure out if they can help you, if you have any complaints or concerns about any of the industries we license and regulate. We provide financial education through me, the Financial Education Coordinator, informational seminars and webinars like this one, financial education materials like the handouts I have today, or those can also be found on occc.texas.gov, and we have the Texas Financial Education Endowment. This grant is available for nonprofit organizations, businesses, schools, things of that nature that provide financial education for K through 12 adults or financial coaching. If you or someone you know belongs to an organization that is thinking about doing that, maybe they're already doing that, and they would like some grant funding, please send them my way. And as an example, I like to mention the Girl Scouts. They're a current recipient. And I mention that because you think about the different organizations like, who's doing financial education? Well, Girl Scouts of Northeast Texas. So that's one example of an organization that maybe your child belongs to and that could benefit from grant funding. Avoiding financial exploitation. No age group is immune from financial exploitation. Millennials are hit hardest by scams promising ways to make money or fix debt. On average, they lose about $400, and they're more likely to lose money by email. If you think about it, millennials have always had a computer, so it makes sense that email is going to be something that's going to hit them hardest. 40 to 60-year-olds, tech support and romance scams. I think of romance scams in this category because a lot of times it's probably people starting over. They're starting a new relationship. Maybe they've been divorced, maybe they've been widowed. Something has come up. And so those romance scams are targeting people who are lonely. And so in 2020, $304 million was reportedly lost to romance scams. When it comes to 60 and up, tech support scams, imposter scams, and lottery scams are the ones that they were hit hardest. So the amount of money lost to these different scams is on average higher than the ones lost for the 40s, 60s, or the millennials. So they're losing more money per time that it happens, I guess, so to speak, per incident. And so if you see, everyone is on here. Everyone on here that makes money, has money, can give money, they fall into a category. So we're not alone. Those closest to you, sadly enough, are more likely to target you. First on the list for people that are going to try to take money, especially from our seniors, is going to be family members and caregivers, friends, neighbors, acquaintances. Then we're going to go into those phone, internet, and mail scams, financial advisors, home repair contractors, Medicare scams. That's why if you have a loved one or you know someone who uses Medicare, that Medicare number is as important as the Social Security number. Why is it not reported? Embarrassment, loyalty, fear of retaliation, codependence, denial, self-blame, lack of awareness, and ethnic background. Look at all those examples of why people aren't reporting it. And if you think about it, those are emotional. Those are emotional reasons. Maybe not lack of awareness or your ethnic background. You can't really do anything against those. But those first ones on the list, it has to do with your emotions, because when it comes to financial scams, criminals are usually preying on that part of the person. They're preying on your emotions, your mental, your physical, all of those things. So my first polling question today is, have you been a victim of identity theft? And this is my way, if we were, in person, I'd be reading the room right now, right? And we'd kind of get an idea, we'd raise our hand. But since we are not in person, this is just a way for everyone to kind of see that you're not alone, and it happens pretty frequently. And it looks like, I will let you know, these numbers are stacking up. So 38% of you say yes, 38% say no, and 25% say not sure. And the reason why 25% say not sure is maybe you're not doing things like checking your credit, or maybe, I will tell you, one time I had a fraudulent charge on my credit card, but it was for $12. Very insignificant. It was at a place that we frequently would go to, and it it only stood out to me because I was like, wait, I didn't go there. And I asked my husband, and he was like, well, I wasn't there that day, or hadn't been there in 2 weeks. And I was like, okay, called the bank immediately and had it taken care of. So in a sense, we were victims of a crime, a very small crime. It was $12. But what if I hadn't caught that $12? It could have been $500 the next time. So when it comes to identity theft, thieves are stealing your personal information and using it to commit identity theft and fraud and other crimes, right? So they want your social security number, they want your birth date, they want account numbers, they want PINs and passwords. That's why you always see it where they say, create a complex password, change your PIN number, do all these things. When you think you've been a victim of identity theft, or to keep from being a victim. And that's why you've got to keep these things close to you, right? I, for one, actually keep our social security cards in our safe. For one, if there was a fire, or something like a flood, a fire, something happened, those are protected, and I know I have them, and you don't have to deal with trying to get new cards and all that stuff, because that could be a hassle. When it comes to identity theft, you never want to provide personal information to unwanted phone calls or letters or emails. Protect incoming and outgoing mail using a secure mailbox. Sadly enough, our mailbox, I think, has been broken into twice, so I question its security. Use direct deposit when you can. Also use direct payment, automatic draft for bills that are important. Then it's cutting out that middleman. It's cutting out you entering information online or by phone or by paper mail, things of that nature. Shred and destroy your financial trash. I did this just this week. Had something on it that had a social security number, and I put it in the shredder. Watch out for any errors on bank accounts and credit card bills. Never provide bank account information, and review your credit report. This is one of the things that's probably really important, especially if you're not sure if you've been a victim of identity theft. The reason why I say this is, for instance, my last name is Johnson. If I go and I look at my credit report and there's a Johnston, with a T in my credit file, I need to contact one of these three credit bureaus: Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. I need to tell them, hey, this is wrong and it needs to be fixed. And you want to find out why it's wrong, right? Make sure there's not a credit card under that person's name. Maybe there's an Andrea Johnston on my credit file that had a foreclosure. That could really hurt my credit. So contact your bank immediately if you believe you're a victim of identity theft, and request copies of your credit report. You want to place a fraud or freeze alert with one of the credit reporting bureaus that you see here on your screen, and contact the Federal Trade Commission. You want to tell them that this has happened so they can report it. It is imperative that if we are victims of financial exploitation in any sense, identity theft, cyber crimes, Medicare, romance, report it. Why? Because knowledge is key. Another thing I want to point out, since I've got this up right now, you can check your credit every week now through April 2022. That's something that the credit reporting bureau started doing because of the pandemic. So take advantage of that. It doesn't affect your credit at all. So take advantage of that and check your credit and make sure you haven't been a victim of identity theft. Make sure all your account numbers and names and your employer's names and everything like that all matches, because you know, you don't want to be caught out there and find out that someone close to you has been using your information to buy a house. Has anyone ever tried to steal your social security before, your information? If you have received a phone call, like I have been receiving them, that says, this is a Social Security Administration office. Your Social Security number has been uh, compromised. Please contact us. Please hit 1. They are trying to get your Social Security information. They are targeting you. Even those phone calls, and I'm going to share one of those phone calls with you. 30% of us say yes, 30% say no. You're very lucky you haven't received one of those phone calls, and 40% say no. And this, hopefully you guys can hear this.
Security number with immediate effect. Due to this, all your social benefits will be canceled until further clearance. In case you feel this is due to an error, you may connect with legal cell of Social Security Administration. In order to connect with a Social Security Administration officer, press 1 now. Your Social Security.
So that's the trick. Press 1 now. I hope you guys heard that. That is the actual phone call that people sent out. They are trying to get your social security number. If you have received one of those phone calls, guess what? You've been attacked. Someone has tried to reach out to you and steal your information. The problem is this. A lot of people, especially in a certain age group, tend to be our seniors, home alone, whatever. They're usually isolated more. You know, my grandmother, she lived alone. All three of my grandparents, up until they died, all lived alone. They had caretakers. And so they tend to be more targeted and become victim more often, because it is so important and it sounds so realistic. But the thing is, the social security number isn't going to call anyone, and they're not going to ask for money. And in 2020, more than $44 million was lost to social security scams. And a lot of those people are going to be your loved ones. They're going to be people that and maybe they didn't tell you. Maybe it wasn't clear until it was too late. So what can you do? Hang up and report it. Whatever you do. Someone said to me, oh, well, I stay on the call to see how far it's going to go. Don't give them the time of day. Hang up and report it. They can get a lot of information for you just sitting on the phone. For one, they know that that's your real phone number. That's a real person. That's not a business. That's not back in the day, it would be a pager. It's not anything like that. So they know that they've reached a real person. And if you hit 1, they might put you through to a real person. What about Medicare theft? Medicare theft, it can happen, and it could lead to you not receiving services or equipment that you need. It can affect your medical and insurance records. You could receive the wrong or perhaps harmful treatment. I, for one, I'll let you know, I take blood pressure medication. I couldn't imagine if someone took my information, went to the doctor, and for one, they didn't have high blood pressure and they pretended to be me, and I couldn't get my prescriptions filled, or I couldn't get the things that I need because I need to take them, right? It's good for my heart. I want to be here every Thursday to talk to you guys. So I don't want to run into that. I know that if you've got diabetes, there's lots of things that go with diabetes that's important. Can you imagine someone using your medical information, going to the doctor? They've stolen your social, they've stolen your Medicare, and now you can't get prescriptions, maybe for your grandparents. That's happened. That can be a big hassle to get that corrected. What you're going to look out for is a bill of service for you that you did not receive. So let's say you know for a fact that you did not go to your doctor on June 6th of 2021, and you get a bill and it says, "Hey, Jack, you were here. Here's your bill for this service." And you're going, no, I wasn't there." So you call them, you check in with them, you call your doctor, you see what's out there, you check your credit, you check everything. Contact from a collection agency for money you don't owe, that's another red flag. Insurance company tells you that you've reached your limit and you know you haven't. Keep records, do your research, know when you have hit your limit or you're about to hit your limit. Insurance coverage denied for a medical condition you don't have. Let's say you don't have diabetes, but for some reason you get a notice from your insurance company that says, "Hey, yeah, this is covered. Your diabetes medication is covered. Thanks." And you're like, "Yeah, that didn't happen." So what about Medicare theft safeguards? Protect your Medicare and insurance cards. They're as important as your Social Security card. Review your Medicare summary notices, insurance explanation of benefit statements, and medical bills. And if you are not, if when it comes to financial exploitation, this is not your category, think about the people in your life that are, especially if they're isolated, if they have home care workers coming in, you need to help them to be proactive about checking these things. Do not give out your Medicare number for assistance. So let's say someone, again, caregivers, family members, closest ones are the ones who hurt you most, and don't give that information out. What can you do? Shred medical papers, destroy prescription labels. I will tell you, I'm really bad at this one. Request a copy of your medical file. One of the things I think about when I say shred is when I did this in person, one woman shared with me, because I was going to senior centers, she shared with me that she would destroy, rip up all her stuff, take it with her, and throughout the day, she would dump pieces of it into different trash cans wherever she went. And I thought, that's pretty interesting. It was, she didn't have access to a shredder, so that seemed to work for her because she's not putting that information. If you think about it, there's a lot tied to that little barcode on your prescription bottle. What about, we're talking about Medicare, so we're talking about your health. What about COVID-19 vaccine scams? These have been really popular. When the vaccine was first coming out, there were a lot of survey scams. You might have seen a few emails that said, "Hey, do this survey. Thanks for getting the vaccine." And maybe you hadn't even gotten the vaccine yet. That's not accurate. And they're also usually not going to pay you for completing the survey. They're not going to ask for your bank information, and you shouldn't click on any links or attachments, and don't call any phone numbers included in the text. There have been so many COVID-related scams and frauds that the Federal Trade Commission actually has set up a webpage specifically for coronavirus scams. That is how bad it has gotten, because another factor that plays into it is that people lost their jobs in 2020, still losing their jobs. We're still recovering economically. And so, where are they getting money from? How are they making ends meet? So, criminals were really targeting people because of the pandemic. Until everything shut down last year, I had never received a Social Security call saying that my Social Security number had been compromised. Um, that was new, and I believe it had a lot to do with the pandemic, because they started coming after people of all ages, all walks of life, all backgrounds. They don't care. They just want your money. So, have you ever fallen victim to a romance scam? So, this is what we're going to talk about next. And I will tell you that I used to do this presentation and it didn't have romance scams in it. And doing some research, I'm really glad I added it. And I'll tell you another reason why I added it is because I'd watched of course, I like crime television, and I'd watched a show about psychics taking advantage of people, and they were taking them for millions of dollars. And I think one or two of the victims in this show were both had to do with love. And it was really sad. And I was like, well, I should talk about that. So 10% of you today say yes, but only once, and 90% say no. And I'm glad. Maybe we won't talk too much about romance scams today. But the truth is this. The question you want to ask is, has an online love interest asked you for money? So maybe you haven't done the online dating things, but it turns out this is a really popular thing that happens. It's almost as bad. It is as bad as all the other things, Social Security scams, for one. So $304 million in losses reportedly from romance scams in 2020, and that was up 50% from 2019. The average individual lost a total of $2,500, and it's not just dating websites, but regular social media. I get requests. I have a pretty public Facebook page because I don't put anything out there that I would have to deny, right? And there's people, I used to work in the news. And so through different walks of life, I've just encountered different people over the years. And so I don't mind having it out there. So when we're talking about regular social media, I also get those people randomly from different countries around the world, and they want to be my friend. And they say, "Hello, gorgeous." And I go, no. And I deny them because I don't even want to invite them into my hemisphere. I have a saying that if I don't know you in real life, I don't know you in virtual life either. And so that's why it's important to talk about this, because maybe you haven't been a victim of romance scams or you don't think you have, but it's not just dating websites. Or maybe you know someone who has, or maybe they don't want to talk to you about it, because I will tell you, this one is much more embarrassing for people a lot of times, especially if it's an older individual who's recently widowed or divorced. They may not even tell their own children. So this is what romance scams look like now. And I will tell you the reason why 2020 probably took such a big hit is because we were all locked inside our houses, and a lot of people for the first time said, I want to log on to a dating website, or I'm looking for love in all the wrong places. And that's what happened. They were shut away, and people can say whoever they want to be online. They don't have to give you the truth at all. And what they do is they will actually create other fake profiles to make what they're telling you look real. So you find them on the dating website, and then they set up a fake Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, uh, TikTok. I mean, they can set up numerous pages. And so when you look them up, you're seeing the same pictures. So do a reverse image search on some of those pictures that you see, and it will show you where they really came from. Never send money or gifts to a sweetheart if you've never met them in person. So that's why 2020 was probably so rampant with this problem, because people weren't meeting in person. You know, um, share the relationships with someone you trust to see if they have concerns. If someone you know and love is a little happier than normal, but they don't tell you why, kind kind Ask some questions. See if they are doing some online dating. See if they're dating someone. Maybe they don't want to tell you. Maybe they're embarrassed. Maybe they've already sent the Visa gift card with, however much money on it to this person. Or maybe they've already transferred funds, or they've paid for plane tickets for someone that is never going to show, which is part of the problem. And also, this person can be fallen victim because they've said I love you already. And if that's one of the red flags, if you're meeting someone online, um, and they say I love you almost immediately, no. So report it to the Federal Trade Commission. Another thing we're going to talk about today also has to do with romance scams, and sadly enough, men seem to fall victim to this more often than women. It's called catfishing. This is used with romance scams a lot. What they do is they target someone through social media or a dating website, and then they have this online relationship. And then you can actually they go, oh, let's have a chat on Friday. I'd really love to talk to you. There is voice changing software to prove they are the person they say they are. Now, what hurts about this one is you think it's just online. You think it's just the pictures. You think it's just, and then you have that last little step. Well, of course it's a real person. I spoke to them. I talked to them every night. I've been talking to them every night for the last month. And I sent them money for a plane ticket to come and see me. And now I haven't heard from them. Or the flight got delayed, or the flight got canceled. So I've got to send them more money to reschedule the flight. So that is part of that's part of the problem. And so one of the things is, instead of just doing a phone call, do a video call. I mean, you may be able to disguise your voice, but you can't really hide your face that well, unless you have that really, really good software where people have changed video completely. I think there's a really famous one of I think it was President Obama, and it's his voice, but then it was this really famous actor, and they use the software to make it look like Obama. No makeup, no anything. But if you're paying attention, you can still see. You can tell that it's not real. So keep your accounts private and only accept friend requests from people you know. I'm not that private with my Facebook page, but I do not accept friend requests from people I do not know. That is a big one. So, how often do you receive automated phone calls as we move away from romance scams today? I will tell you that these can be such a nuisance. We were talking about, social media, and they said in the chat box, also funding requests on social media can get excessive. Yes, 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 yes. You see it all the time. And you really have to think about, when I talk about credit and budgeting during my other webinars, you budget in the charities you want to give to. So don't just click and give, click and give, click and give. Really think about what you're clicking and giving, right? So let's see, are we receiving phone calls? And this is always a yes. No one answered never. Some of you say once a day, some say several times a day, hardly ever, and then 0% of you say never. And I will tell you that at the height of the pandemic, I felt like everyone imaginable had my phone number and was calling me. And things are getting less and less and less as people are getting out more in, being around other people. So that means we're talking, right? We're in person, we're talking to each other, sharing this information, and not answering those fraudulent phone calls, or like me, which sometimes the Google Assistant kind of gets on my nerves, but it automatically spams calls I don't know. Sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. So, what about fraudulent phone calls? Funny enough, there are several different kinds. There's this one. This is kind of like the big heartstrings one, right? Hello, Grandpa, I'm in trouble. Please don't tell Mom. If anyone calls and says, please don't tell, fill in the blank, hang up. Most crimes of any nature, if someone tells you to keep it secret, it's wrong. So you hang up. In 2019, more than 3.2 million people reported calls like this one specifically. The Federal Trade Commission reported $667 million in losses. I've got a couple examples of this. I had a friend, she lived in New York this past year. She was waiting in line, I believe, just like at a random retail store. And there was an older man on the phone, and he was telling someone, yeah, I've got the cards, I'm gonna check out. And he was very frantically on the phone, very frantic. And she didn't get a chance to say anything, but someone else stepped forward and said, sir, who are you talking to? Why are you getting these gift cards? And the man, was embarrassed, and he left. He didn't purchase the gift cards. Maybe he went somewhere else. But at that moment, someone stepped in and protected him from being a victim. I had someone tell me during my presentations one time that she got a phone call that said it was from her grandson or nephew, and he was in Canada and he couldn't get across from the border. And she hung up and called his family, and he was nowhere in Canada, never been to Canada at that point, and she knew it was fraudulent, but she did what she was supposed to. She hung up and called someone. She made sure that she was getting the right information. But see, this is attacking your heart. Someone calls in the middle of the night, you wake up, you've been woken up out of sleep, you were completely out of it, and they are frantic and they need help, they need money. Help me, help me. Your first thing is to jump up and help, you know? And so it's important to just take a step back and assess the situation and make a phone call. Automated phone calls and robocalls. A robocall is trying to sell you something, and it is illegal unless the company has written permission to contact you. So you can receive robocalls if you've given permission to receive them, and it has to be a legitimate company. Political candidates and charities calling for donations are allowed. So sometimes they have a call, it pops up, this is the such and such association, please hold. Well, that's just because someone has used an automatic dialer to dial your phone number to get someone on the phone, and then they'll connect you typically to a real person. Why did they call, and what can you do about it? Robocalls are cheap and they're easy to make from the internet all over the world. Funny enough, when I lived closer to Hutto, I had a Pflugerville person on today. We live real close to Hutto. And so a lot of the things and places that we went to were in Hutto. I would get phone calls with not only the area code for this area, but the first 3 digits of common phone numbers in Hutto constantly, all the time. And I would go, oh, and I'd answer it not thinking. But it's because they're just using a robocall to get me. Scammers can fake the name and number that shows up. It's called spoofing. I have received phone calls from my own phone number. Look into call blocking solutions. The do not call registry can only block calls from real companies, not scammers. Usually, if you guys have other systems that you've used, I mentioned I've got Google Assistant on my phone now and it blocks people, but sometimes it blocks people that I want to talk to. Funny enough. And if there's other ways that you know about blocking robocalls, please share those and I can pass those along to everyone else on the call today. But the big thing you can do with this is hang up and report it. Do not sit there and think that you are doing a fishing expedition. You're not going to get the information that you want. You're just wasting your time. And the longer they have you on the phone, they could be recording your voice. They could use your voice. There's different software out there. They could use your voice to manipulate someone else. What about lottery or sweepstakes winnings? Well, this could come in the form of phone calls, emails, or letters regarding lotteries, drawings, or sweepstakes. I have a picture of the Texas Lottery Commission up there right now. I worked there at one point, and I will tell you, if you have purchased a ticket from the Texas Lottery Commission, that's a legitimate lottery, right? But the difference is you bought the ticket, correct? And you bought it before you were contacted for winning. That's the catch here. The warning signs that you see here, it says never pay to play. That's because someone calls you and says, hey, you've won. Give me some money so I can send you more money. That's not the same thing as a traditional lottery system, a legitimate lottery. You can't win a contest you didn't enter. If you don't buy your Powerball ticket, you're not going to win the Powerball, are you? Be suspicious of pressure to wire funds or send prepaid cards. This is a way they get you because there's probably a lot of information when it comes to those prepaid cards. You are using your money and making a legitimate card at that point and sending it to someone else. Don't wire funds. Don't wire funds. That one's never a good one. Staying safe online today. What about phishing? That's phishing. Well, phishing is authentic looking emails and web pages to trick you into revealing personal information. And spoofing, email addresses disguised to look like that of someone you know. I will tell you, a few of these have always popped up. Smishing, this is fake text messages pretending to be from real companies. Uh, let's talk about phishing, authentic emails and web pages. These I get a lot from my bank, but it's not really my bank. And if I roll over the email address that it came from and it says like 4579 to me at live.com or whatever it is, that's fake. Do not reply to that email. Do not click on any links. Do not click on any attachments. As soon as you do, think about all the things you do online regarding your finances, banking online, shopping online. You know, some people maybe investing online. Don't do it. Don't transfer information. Delete it and call it a day. What about spoofing? These are email addresses disguised to look like someone you know. This is also when you use the real email address to contact that person and say, hey, your account has been scammed. I got an email from you at like 2 o'clock in the morning. It said it was you, but there were lots of typos. There were lots of names I didn't recognize. You asked me some really strange information. Don't reply to the email address that's not really your friend's email address, but call your friend or use their actual email address to start a new email to let them know that this has happened. What is smishing? Well, not right now. I did receive a FedEx text saying, oh, your item is coming today. However, I have received messages in the past that said, I think it was FedEx or it was USPS, that said, click on this link. We are trying to contact you. Well, what I usually do is I go through the places where I purchased things. You know, if it's an Amazon purchase or, you know, something from Chewy or Walmart or Target or whatever it is, I go where I actually purchased the item online and see how it's being sent to me. I check the tracking information that way. I don't click on the link or the text in the message, the text message. I don't call anyone, and I go that way. I don't when I see that, and I delete the text. Again, thanks to technology, my phone usually blocks spam text messages. And some of you probably are benefiting from that as well. So staying safe online, use security software and update it frequently. Updating it is important. Do not email financial information. Do not open attachments or download files. Use complex passwords, and complex is complex. They're actually password generators. Try not to also, I know one of the things, it can be really tempting to save your password for a site that you frequently go to, right? Make sure you're caching your cookies, caching your history, doing those things where you're just flushing all that information out occasionally and having to re-enter it as you go along. Because if you were to get hacked, those passwords are out there. Someone can log into the system, see your search history, see the pages you visited, and guess what? You've saved those passwords to those pages. All they got to do is click yes. And it is really quick. If you notice, there's a lot of jokes on. I've noticed in my feeds, and I follow a lot of financial feeds and news feeds. There's a lot of memes where someone says, or jokes where someone says, "Hey, tell me the name of your first elementary school, your favorite color, and your favorite pet." And sometimes people answer, don't answer that. Those are common questions used to check your password information and reset your password. Don't do it. Also, think of complex questions when it comes to that. For resetting your password, don't go with, the name of my dog or whatever it may be, or your mother's middle name or your mother's maiden name. These are things that are easily found. If someone can find your first and last name, they can get your address from county records. They can get all kinds of information from you, and they can find out what your parents' maiden names were. You know, do not open messages from unknown senders. Delete suspicious messages and do not click on links or numbers. Like I said, in the smishing text, where you're getting a fake text and I get a link that says, "We've been trying to track you." No, you haven't. I don't have anything coming from FedEx. I don't have anything coming from USPS right now. Delete emails and text messages asking you to confirm or give personal information. Don't do it. Just delete it. I feel like that could be a song, when the song Relax. Now it could be about your emails and your online stuff. Don't do it. Just delete it. So key takeaways from today: speak up if you have been a victim of fraud. I asked during the presentation, have you been a victim? And some of you said yes. If we were in person, you could see each other face to face and see that all of us are the same person. Uh, we're all fragile, we all have something emotional, mental, physical, financial that might be a burden a lot of times. And that's what scammers are targeting. Your story might help someone else. Financial scams come in many forms: text, emails, letters, and phone calls. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And just say no. And this includes close friends and family. During these presentations, I've learned that someone said that they were on a fixed income, over 65, drawing Social Security, retirement. So they're on a very fixed income. And I think it was their nephew had asked them to co-sign on a new truck. It was like a $65,000 truck. The answer is no. Unless you're going to treat them like a business and they're going to show you pay statements, bank account deposits, the last 6 months of, employment records, things of that nature, say no, say no, say no, say no. It may hurt. It may fray whatever relationship you have in the beginning, but you know what? It can't be as bad as if they default on that loan and you get taken to the cleaners to pay that loan. That'll really mess up a relationship. I'm Andrea Johnson. I'm the Financial Education Coordinator for the Office of Consumer Credit Commissioner. You can email me at financial-education@occc.texas.gov. You can find us on Facebook at Texas Financial Education Endowment and on Twitter at Financial Ed Texas.